All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the April 30th MakerDAO community call. We cover a bunch of stuff in this call every Tuesday. We do updates on the community, basically, updates on partnerships, updates on major events that have been going on in the MakerDAO universe. And every once in a while, we have a guest or a demo, something interesting. And not that the other stuff isn't interesting, but this week we have Chris Bradbury, who's the product coordinator here at MakerDAO, and he's going to be demoing the multi-collateral Dai CDP portal for you guys. So, Chris, you want to come on and introduce yourself a bit?
Hey, thanks, David. Hey, I'm Chris. I was interested a while ago when we released the single collateral Dai CDP portal. So it's good to be here to show you guys what we've got so far and hopefully get some good feedback.
Nice, thanks, Chris. Yeah, time flies, huh?
Yeah. So do you want me to dive straight in?
Yeah, we could dive pretty much straight in. The first 20 to 30 minutes are all you. So can you walk us through like precisely what you're going to be demoing? You're going to share your screen, right?
Yeah, so I'll share my screen. I'll take you through what we've got as the MCD CDP portal at the moment. It is very much a work in progress. So with what the plan at the moment, if you've been keeping an eye on the kind of Koban release blogs that we've been doing, is we're releasing new contracts every couple of weeks at the moment. And with that, releasing updates to the UIs we have. The main focus right now has been the MCD CDP portal, which is updating pretty much weekly. With new features, new functionality. The last couple of releases, there's been new contract addresses with each release of the like kind of core system. But that should hopefully be kind of slowing down a little bit now with like the main part of the core system kind of out there. Some of the auction stuff as well.
Chris, have you seen a lot of engagement with developers outside of MakerDAO with the Koban MCD deployment?
I personally have not. I've had pretty much an internal view. I mean, we've seen quite a few users using it when we released the blogs, which is nice. But other than that, yeah, I don't know too much, which is kind of why I'm here. We haven't seen too much feedback, whether good or bad, on Reddit or anything from the actual CDP portal. So yeah, keen to see what you guys think. So I'll jump straight in and start presenting what we've got. Cool. So this is pretty much a very basic landing page we have at the moment with nice kind of the wallet connections, and you'll start to see as well read-only mode. So one thing we're looking at with multi-collateral Dai is actually the ability to go and actually view any CDPs without actually having to connect a wallet. Something that isn't possible in single collateral Dai. So you can't actually just navigate within the CDP portal to any CDP. To keep an eye on it, although there are many tools out there for checking on those sorts of things. So I've just got a brand like an empty wallet at the moment, just with a couple of with some ETH and some what we call collateral one at the moment, which is kind of our bog standard collateral, and kind of very basic screen. It's actually not that different to the single collateral Dai, really. You'll see quite a few similarities in it. But I'm just going to go ahead as this first step and add. Like kind of create a new CDP really. So obviously the first thing is this is multi-collateral Dai. So you actually have multiple different collateral types, right? But the other important thing is and it's something that Rune touched on in one of the Unchained podcasts he did. But we're actually going to be able to have the ability to have different risk parameters for a single collateral type. So here, for instance, you see ETH A and ETH B with different stability fees, but also different liquidation ratios. So you'll be able to ultimately choose your risk and ultimately choose what liquidation ratio you want. And the higher the liquidation ratio, the lower the stability fee, in essence. And this will be available on launch just for ETH. But over time, we'll be releasing all the collateral types of many different variations of. So the first one is going to go ahead and deploy ETH CDP, basically. So super similar to the last one, enter how much ETH, say how much Dai you want to generate. Continue. If anyone has any questions, by the way, please jump in at any point. So the first thing we're going to do is just, the first transaction is actually just deploying a proxy contract. So in the same way the single collateral Dai portal works, you need to deploy a proxy contract, and it's a proxy contract that ultimately owns the CDP. And then we've got the actual CDP, which is going to be there. The one screen we are working on at the moment.
So what's the purpose of the proxy contract?
Ultimately, it allows us to perform multiple transactions within a single transaction. So when we start doing, for instance, the creation of the CDPs and some of the other kind of transactions later on, instead of the user having to click 5 different transactions, I don't know if you remember the original Dai dashboard. It's still live at dai.makerdao.com, where you actually have to do 5 or 6 transactions just to open the CDP. The idea of the proxy contract is it will do those 5 or 6 transactions for you in a single click of the button, ultimately, in just one transaction. So it doesn't even take the time of 6 transactions. It's just the time for one transaction, but it will do everything for you in one go for pretty much exactly the same gas. So we're going to accept the terms of service. I'm going to create our CDP. Again, another transaction to sign. And that's going to be there. So there's a few things on here that are still placeholders. So it's got here estimated time is 8 minutes, which is just hard coded. Generally, that will be hooked up to whatever the estimated time is for the gas level. And we can exit this at any point now. So we're just going to remove from here. And you can now see here, we've got this nice kind of transaction manager that we're working on at the moment. So we've got one transaction currently in progress, creating a CDP. Unfortunately, we haven't yet hooked up the actual actions to refresh the screen. So I'm just going to go ahead straight away and just refresh this. One thing you'll notice is if we, for instance, just go to a URL on anywhere, it's kind of everywhere's gone gray. And I actually can, I'm in read-only mode, and I can just connect again. So I'm just going to hit connect, and it's going to connect back with my wallet back to this CDP. And now we've got our CDP on the left-hand side, ETH. And this is kind of what it looks like. We're missing a few things on the right-hand side at the moment, but this is really your box standard look and feel of what the CDP is going to look like. We've kept the IDs, and you can now see that this, for instance, is just CDP 47. And anybody, like any of you now, could go to this URL, for instance, and load up this page, whether it's you've connected a wallet or not connected a wallet. So this is now, you can share this anywhere. And actually what we're looking at slightly longer term or down the line, and hopefully in place for launch, is that even if you connect with a wallet that doesn't own this CDP, payback and deposit are still going to be available to you. So if, for instance, you have a CDP on your ledger and you're out for the day somewhere, and you can see the price crashing and you need to do something, you could actually use like your Coinbase wallet app, for instance, on your phone to just go navigate to this CDP and add some more ETH or pay back some Dai just using your Coinbase wallet app to this CDP. If you don't have to have your ledger or your Trezor or anything on you, you can actually use any wallet anywhere to pay back. So
Yeah, that's really interesting. Right now, for like the current CDP portal, you could do that only through third-party portals like MakerScan, right? Like you can't do it directly through the CDP portal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, we see it something like kind of probably more of like what we're looking at is like the pro user is going to do. But yeah, we think it'll be a great use, particularly if people want to preference like hardware wallets and you don't want to carry them around, so you don't have to worry about it quite so much. So this is the kind of one CDP. We've got all the same details that we had in the single collateral Dai CDP. So we've got kind of the liquidation price, what the current price information is of ETH, collateralization ratio, the minimum ratio, stability fees, kind of showing around here the collateral that you've got locked up in your Dai position. And eventually this is going to show your full transaction history, but we're still working on getting some of this data at the moment. So now we can go ahead actually and add a second CDP to this. So I'm just going to add collateral 1 basically here. I'm going to continue with that. I'm just going to look up 5 of this and look 0.1. I'll look up 5 collateral 1s and draw 0.1 Dai. Just going to continue here. So now it's an ERC20 token. We're actually now going to have to approve or like set the allowance basically and unlock that collateral before we can actually lock it up. So unfortunately, we're going to have to do this on every kind of collateral you go to lock that's an ERC20 at the moment. So all we're doing there is you've probably used it on Uniswap or whatever. You just have to basically unlock that collateral type. Again, there will be actually a screen coming for that. So where at the moment you just saw a transaction pop up and you have no idea what it is that you're actually signing, in the next few weeks you would actually see a screen that shows actually what you're looking for there. So again, we're just going to create the CDP. We've got 5 collateral 1A. You'll notice when we launch, all the collaterals are going to be hyphenated with A, B, C, depending on what their risk parameters are. I'm just going to go ahead and create the CDP. Again, just going to sign the transaction, and we're back here. So I'm just going to exit that. While that's deploying, you can see it's creating up here. I can still interact with this CDP. So I can go and lock more ETH. So here you can see that all the actions are performed in the sidebar down here. So we're paying back or we're depositing. I can just go up to here now, and I can just deposit 0.1 or ETH into the CDP. Confirm the transaction, and that's carrying on. Again, the screen doesn't update perfectly just yet, so I'm just going to refresh here. It's going to connect my wallet, and also now you can see I've got collateral 1A CDP as well. So this is the second one we've connected. So as we go down, we're going to have a number of these CDPs down here, and actually in one of the future versions as well, actually your liquidation ratio, kind of with a green, amber, or red text, is actually going to show in this sidebar as well. So instead of having to click through all of your CDPs to check out the kind of status of them, we're actually going to show you your liquidation ratio in these boxes on the left-hand side against each collateral type. And yeah, if it's green, it's within the safe range. Amber, it's kind of dangerous, and red might be just about to be bitten. That is pretty much it of where we are. Like I said, it's still super early. We've only been working on this about 4 to 6 weeks, but we're keen to get some feedback. It's much easier to make changes now if everybody wants the same sort of thing where we are. But yeah, if you have any questions, fire them over.
So the two like changes that stand out the most to me from like the current CDP portal are probably the transaction like queue on the top right whenever you do something. I really like that. And then also like the sidebar on the left to accommodate the multiple CDPs. I know that the construction of this new CDP portal is like in its form is very similar to the current CDP portal. I mean, I imagine that's intentional. I mean, there's probably been a ton of user testing for the current CDP portal that happened. Uh, but how much of this was done from scratch, and kind of curious about uh like was it the 4 to 6 weeks that really took, like, those 2 features? Like, what sort of other stuff is also in the pipeline? I guess I'm asking a lot of questions here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, like, let's start at the beginning. So the design ultimately was done from scratch. Like, we took the single collateral Dai CDP portal as the kind of base inspiration, really, because like, we got a lot of positive feedback from that. It did the job. It worked really well. It looked really awesome. I think there's an event in Europe where it scored like 98%, I think, on some UI test, and the next best one was in the 80%. So it scored really well, and we had a lot of good feedback. We did have some comments about things that could be improved and could be better on it, and we're trying to take those in and add them to this. So all of the code is completely written from scratch. So we've started completely from the ground up. This version is going to be a lot more mobile responsive than the previous version. So the single collateral Dai portal isn't great if you use a mobile wallet, for instance, or like a DApp browser on a mobile. So that's one thing that's going to be better on here. And yeah, we've got some other nice features coming as well, such as this is going to have an overview page. So actually, when you come to or connect your wallet and just go straight to your CDP, actually what you're going to see is an overview of your entire basket of CDPs, for instance. So if you've got maybe 20 CDP like positions open on down the left-hand side, actually you're going to have an overview screen which is going to give you a very quick and basic summary of what your basket of CDPs looks like. We've also obviously updated everything to be MCD as well, which took quite a lot of work. We've got new price feeds. The contracts underneath are completely different, so it's a whole new SDK kind of plugins for MCD compared to SCD as well, really. So yeah, everything you see is basically brand new. The only thing that we've really taken from SCD is the design inspiration that we had, and which in reality has only been live 6-7 months, right? So it's
Right.
not exactly an old product or out of date yet.
Right. In the in this portal, so I see a couple things missing, right? There's like the move CDP and close CDP buttons missing. There's there's also like the token permissions. So are you still gonna, like, in the future for multi-collateral Dai portal, are you still gonna need to like do all the token permissions for each new collateral and each new token that interacts with this app?
Yes, we're still going to have the token permissions, but I think they're going to be simplified as opposed to the little kind of switches that you had on the right hand side. Mainly because of potential of so many collateral types up there. So there's actually going to be a new modal that will just show up whenever you need to approve a token permission. And this wallet drop down here is not working at the moment, but actually this will drop down and show you some more additional information you can do associated with this wallet. So you would actually click here, and this might show you, for instance, now all of your like allowances or balances and so on connected with this wallet that you've connected. Regarding to move, that functionality was still, I think, still finalizing actually at the smart contract level.
Yeah.
So actually, for the release of MCD, you're actually going to be able to move, for instance, I think partial amounts of a CDP. So you're going to be able to actually move, kind of like in this case, I could send two like collateral one tokens to another account and still leave this CDP here with three, and so on. And then the other thing in MCD is we don't actually have a close. There is no close functionality.
Mm,
However, what I am interested in is maybe hearing some feedback in is actually adding a close button, which kind of just does everything for you. So it does the whole payback and withdraw functionality all in a single transaction. So in reality, you wouldn't actually be closing it, but kind of one of the kind of user stories that we have or kind of floating around here at the moment is the idea that if you close a CDP, yeah, you pay back your outstanding Dai. It withdraws all the collateral back to your wallet, and it would actually hide the kind of CDP from the left hand nav bar. Now, if you were to go and reopen that CDP in a couple of months' time, it would reopen. Your transaction history would reappear from what you previously had connected to this CDP. Because what's important is you can only have one CDP per ilk. So ultimately, like per collateral types and risk parameter. So ETH A, for instance. So you can have multiple ETH CDPs, like ETH A, ETH B, ETH C, and so
mhm.
on. But as I understand it, you can only have one ETH A CDP.
Right. Okay, and that makes sense because like having different, for example, like minimum collateralization ratios, right? If like you have an ETH collateralization CDP with 150%, presumably you would charge it one stability fee, but then if you have a 200% minimum collateralization ratio on another type of ETH CDP, you could probably charge a smaller stability fee uh,
Yeah,
because of like the requirement of more collateral. And that's kind of the idea of having multiple CDPs with like individual collateral types. But
yeah,
it will
exactly. Yeah,
be per collateral type. So you can't have like 5 or 6 collaterals in a single CDP. You have to have multiple.
yeah, correct. Yeah,
Yeah. So let me just catch up in the chat. Uh, Juan Main says, "Sorry, I came in late. So does this mean I could use KNC as collateral to generate Dai?" No, not just yet. Uh, this is just a demo of the portal itself. Multi-collateral Dai is launched on Kovan partially, I believe, for testing and for basically slowly being rolled out to the developer community. But yeah, this is just a demo. Uh, Somebody criticized the formatting. Uh, Pramesh. Pramesh, do you have any suggestions on what you think would make the formatting better? Feel free to type in chat or say in the if you have a mic. All right. The interface seems a bit bland. This is early stuff. Tell us what you think would make it look better. Perhaps maybe like a night mode. Like the current CDP portal looks sexy as hell. I
So
don't know.
yeah, so actually we do actually have a night mode
Oh,
in the
really?
backlog for basically once we have all the functionality in there, just like with most web apps now, you get a little switch and it will switch, for instance, to the night mode. That's still in the kind of in the designs with the option to do that. One thing actually I would say actually if you've got particular bits of feedback on the actual portal or sections of the portal, is potentially to use this feedback tool down here. It's completely anonymous. We have no idea. It doesn't take any data about IPs or emails or anything like that. But you can draw arrows. You can create boxes. You can do what you want and write a small message. This is really helpful to us. So if you have particular comments on here, which are difficult to show maybe on this call, or you don't have a microphone to actually talk about it in detail, please use that feedback button. We'll see it, and yeah, we'll try and add as much as possible to the backlog and get it out before the release.
Hold on. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, that's a really cool tool. I didn't notice the feedback button on the bottom right. That's great.
I had a few comments and question. First of all, I just wanted to say great work on the read-only mode, and I really like the sort of tabbed out feature. I like the idea that you guys are going to use colors to indicate whether or not you're close to the collateralization ratio. The two pieces of feedback would be when you first land on it. I think to most of us that are technically savvy, it makes sense you hit the plus to create one. But there's nothing there. There's a lot of screen real estate. So maybe like drop Clippy in there or something and point over to the sidebar to indicate that people should open the thing up, or start a CDP. And then the other was a question, which was in the case where you're choosing two different versions of the multi-collateral, let's say the collateralization ratio with different stability fees. What does that look like from a sort of expectation of if we increase the stability fee or decrease the stability fee? Is that one movement from the sort of maker perspective when we vote to do that, and then it's just a ratio based on the back end to adjust both of those?
Yeah, so in multi-collateral Dai, ultimately the stability fee is more the Dai savings rate in MCD. So each collateral type ultimately you need to look at as having as the stability fee of an individual collateral type being the Dai savings rate plus some sort of risk premium. So if the Dai savings rate is 5% and we have ETH having a 2% risk premium, for instance, then we've got that ETH has an individual stability fee ultimately of 7%. So whenever we adjust the DSR, the Dai savings rate, then all of the stability fees across the board are going to adjust. I think it's only going to be in extreme circumstances. We're actually going to be adjusting the individual stability fees of individual tokens. Obviously, it can happen, and it probably will happen. But generally, it's just going to be the DSR that's going to be adjusted, and everything is then going to adjust across the board.
Wow. Okay, so that's even more than for one particular collateral type with different parameters. That's for the whole thing.
Yeah. So everything ultimately has a risk premium, and then it's just connected to the DSR underneath.
Chris,
okay, great.
Chris, I'm not sure that that using the changing the DSR, I don't think that it's actually going to affect the individual stability fees like when a change is made. Like if I believe that each parameter has to be individually tuned. I don't think there's like a relationship there, is there? Because that's not how I originally understood it. Like I understand that the DSR is going to be the primary monetary policy tool. Okay, Nick is clarifying in the chat. There is. Okay, cool. I didn't know that. Yeah, that's really cool. So, wow. So the stability fee is going to have actual components that are going to be connected to stuff like the DSR. That's great. All right. Yeah, thank you, Christopher Mooney, for your feedback. That was really great.
Yeah, thank you. Is there any other questions at all? I need to jump in like 2 minutes, I'm afraid. But
let me take a look. Is there a MakerDAO portal to buy CDPs? No, there isn't. I think people in the community will probably be developing portals like that. I think on our side, on the foundation side, we're going to be focusing on front ends for like the Dai savings rate, for the CDP portal itself, just to create and manage your CDP. And I believe that's all. I mean, what other front ends are there, Chris?
So yeah, going forward, we're going to have the savings Dai. Yeah, at the moment it's just CDP portal and governance, but yeah, moving forward we've got the savings Dai, which we've actually got basic wireframes for, kind of on a development branch at the moment. So keep an eye on that for the next few weeks. That's going to be released semi soon. We've also got the kind of CDP migration coming into the CDP portal, which is kind of like a mini app within the CDP portal to be able to migrate your single collateral Dai CDPs over. We've got read-only version of the auctions coming, so you actually be able to kind of look into the auction system and actually see what auctions are happening within there, although you won't actually be able to bid directly on them at the first release. And we've actually got a developer portal coming as well, which is going to be great for developers. So it's be able to dive a little bit deeper into it, have like a playground area, play around with the Dai.js.
Cool. So, Chris, I have one question for you about the MCD CDP portal. So I noticed that it's like when you create one, it's staged with like some transaction history that's already there, with with a with a EAD beef ending public key. That's pretty funny. Yeah. But I was curious. At what point will people who are testing multi-collateral Dai be able to kind of have their own pure transaction histories and like kind of real information on here?
Yeah, hoping very soon. We've actually just finished the task, actually getting some of that data. The only issue we have at the moment is effectively it's coming kind of from Vulcanize and the GraphQL stuff. And well, once those contracts and the data gets updated on there, it's almost when there's a next release of the new contracts again. So at the moment, as all of the core contracts are changing every 2 weeks, we're ever so slightly ahead of being able to get the transaction history from that. But hopefully, we're going to have a solution very soon for that.
Is there going to be a point where the contracts stop changing, and what point is that? Is that like basically once it's like the most finalized draft of the like what do the contracts like really consist of that gets changed? It's all smart contract level stuff. It's not really front end stuff, right? It's just where you source the info from, right?
Yeah, ultimately it's just the smart contracts. Yeah, at the moment we're making small changes, updating a few different things. For instance, we've got some changes in governance to a new module called DS Pause that's been updated a couple of times in the recent governance deployments. And yeah, we've just got small minor changes as we learn a little bit more and changing updates and things. If it's difficult to do certain things on the front end. So yeah, they're being released every 2 weeks roughly to Kovan. However, we are actually looking to release to the Girly network, hopefully for their next release, potentially tomorrow or Friday, if all goes well, or worst case scenario in 2 weeks' time.
So what's the reason for moving from Kovan to Girly?
So Kovan effectively has kind of a lot of the support has stopped for Kovan now, and people are kind of moving away from Kovan. So we're at least at this stage probably going to move towards Girly and try it out and see what it's like. But ultimately, long term, we haven't made any full decisions yet. It's going to be a case of what a lot of our collateral partners use, and yeah, what kind of has the biggest take up really to allow the easiest testing.
Got it.
I've been very pleased with Rinkeby.
Okay. Okay, we certainly take a look at that. I mean, there's nothing stopping us actually deploying onto multiple test nets as well. Take a little bit more maintenance, but yeah, I mean, probably the more we deploy to, the more we can actually test that everything is working.
Got it. Giacomelli asks, what about a CDP based on a pooled ETH plus other ERC20 tokens, which would be great to disperse risks associated with a single token? I think that the idea is that if you have a CDP with multiple tokens, you kind of have to do a risk analysis of that basket of tokens itself. So it just makes a lot more sense and scales a lot better if you create CDPs with their own parameters per individual collateral, and then you could let the user create multiple CDPs to kind of arrange their own portfolio as they will, because there's a billion different ways you could create a portfolio of CDPs.
Yeah, and I think the Oasis team are also working on something to do with that as well. I mean, from like Maker's core point of view of just being just like hopefully one CDP portal of many, right?
Right.
We're just aiming kind of for basic functionality, at least in this first version. Ideally, we want to see the community build these like kind of more advanced CDP portals that offer cool functionality like that.
That just brought to mind like set protocol, for example, right? You might have like very popular set tokens, which are just like, they're basically, you could lock a bunch of different ERC20s together and they create a kind of standard token that anybody can have. You can have things like that, maybe.
Yeah,
Is that on the roadmap? Maybe
not
adding set
particularly.
protocols. Okay, I like that idea.
I think that any ERC20 token is kind of up for grabs by Maker governance, right? Maker governance can decide to evaluate pretty much anything. There's going to be like a standby list of like a priority of different assets that need to be evaluated, right? And I think that to have like a set protocol token, that would be a really great idea, but it also depends on a lot of things like the liquidity and the size of the market of that token and like that token's kind of components. But yeah, I like that idea too. Let me see if there are any other questions in the chat that we can ask you before we let you go, Chris. Will the basket risk tool be available to retail on the portal? The basket risk tool? I'm not sure what that is.
So if you can hear me, you just mentioned maybe 2 minutes ago that you'll be evaluating the risk of the system by looking at individual tokens.
Yes.
That will require portfolio risk management. So will that tool be available to retail?
So the way that it would work basically is that in the way that the MCD CDP portal showed like ETH A and ETH B with different kind of parameters governing these different kinds of CDPs for a single collateral type, the Maker governance is going to take the collateral type or take the collateral. They're going to take ETH and they're going to look at various things like exposure risk, liquidity risk, volatility risk, and they're going to assign all these parameters like the debt ceiling and the base risk premium rate for the stability fee. They're basically going to individually craft these CDP types. And then from the user perspective on the CDP portal, they could control their portfolio with that sidebar that they could basically open up multiple CDPs of different collateral types and have full freedom to navigate their portfolio that way. I hope that answers the question a bit.
So would Steven be the POC on this?
So Steven is right now he's the COO and he's managing the internal risk team. I think that have you been joining our Thursday governance and risk calls?
I've been listening to them post recording.
Yeah. So at the moment, the whole risk side of governance is being built out, and I think that there's still a lot of work to be done. For example, like having a place for people to really publish full kind of breakdowns of their risk constructs and models. Chris says he has to run. Chris left. Okay, I'm gonna thank him on all of your behalf in a message. But yeah, so that was the demo. But here, hold on 1 second. Yeah, so Darius, right? That's who I'm speaking to.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, so just to speak to the risk side, yeah, there's still a lot of work to be done in terms of like having people be able to accurately assess collateral risk. And I think right now we've been focusing very heavily on monetary policy with regards to like the stability fee and the Dai peg. And I think in the coming months, Cyrus is going to be leading discussions talking through like a qualitative risk analysis framework and also a quantitative analysis framework, and basically building out the community's understanding of how that's going to work.
Cool. So I might have something to show him. I'll demo him to Cyrus then.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah, definitely. You could ping him at Cyrus on
I'm on
our
the Rocky chat. I got him. Yep. Thanks.
let me just check on the questions. Maybe asked, answered already, but wondering, is Augur handling MCD deployment? What do you mean, Bourbon? Are you there? All right, so I guess just to answer what I think Bourbon's question is, there's actually a developer guide for all integrations partners that are currently integrated with like single collateral Dai on how to migrate to multi-collateral Dai. And I think there's going to be even more documentation closer to the release of multi-collateral Dai. So Augur, if they launch now and use Dai v1, right? Eventually, when Dai v2 and MCD comes out, they're going to have the ability to migrate, hopefully, with minimal kind of friction. Ashley Shapp asks, what's being built out on the risk front? So Ashley, right now, I answered it a bit already. Cyrus has been working on the qualitative risk framework, like in very excruciating detail, and we've been thinking about a place where risk teams can host their research and their models and their data and their methodologies and all that kind of stuff. Because right now, it's pretty much all our MakerGov. And it's great, but I thought, and a couple of people think that something like eth.research, or eth.research or ethresearch.th, I forget the domain, but having a kind of place to have more official research published would be really interesting. And also, we're actively thinking through the system of how to weight and score different risk teams' risk constructs, basically. So at the moment, that's pretty much what's being built out there. Bo asks, are you able to tell us a rough estimate of the number of platforms currently accepting Dai / planning to integrate Dai this year? I believe that there were over 200 integration partners. Last I heard a number thrown around, but I think that that's a really rough number. And I know that our BD team is like super hard at work at getting more integration partners. And a lot of people we've actually been seeing are self-integrating, which is really nice. Yeah. All right, cool. So I'll conclude the demo portion and the question portion for now. Actually, let me just read the chat and see. Albert Shaw asks us, so I was wondering, is there a concern about the interaction of compound.finance type and other third-party savings rates on the ability to control the price of Dai? So I've been playing around with a quote money market based on wrapping a CDP. So these types of third-party savings account creations are fairly maybe too easy to create, funded by CDP interest rates. If this starts instead creating more demand for Dai when the interest rate goes up, it could be concerning. So I think I understand what you're asking, and I think that in governing monetary policy and also like individual sort of like assessments of collateral, considering what like exogenous data, data outside of the maker system is an important data point. And if you think about your exposure risk, for example, imagine that we start taking digits into multi-collateral Dai, you might consider the fact that it's also being taken as collateral on some other, place like compound.finance, and that actually affects the free float of the supply of the actual token and the liquidity of the markets. So that is a data point to be considered within the overall kind of risk framework for that analysis of that particular collateral type. So I hope that answers the question. But as for yeah, if you want, you can come on the mic and expand on that question, because it seems to be pretty complex.
Sure.
Yeah.
So basically, I was playing around with, because like the CDP interest rate is so high, 14%. If somebody else like covers part of that debt,
Mhm.
it's pretty easy to create an incentive for CDP owners to allow to like start letting people deposit into the accounts and then pay the depositors like part of the savings rate. So it's just like if something like that happens, there would be like a direct connection of. So instead of like the savings rates, could instead the demand for the the Dai savings rate that we wanted to use to control the price of Dai could instead be like overtaken by third-party savings tools that can offer higher savings rates because of the gap between the DSR and the.
I think, yeah, I think I get what you're saying. I think generally speaking, if you look at like traditional finance, there's kind of like this idea of a risk-free uh, rate of return, and it's kind of like that minimum rate of return that you can get from the least risky assets, which I think are like currently like treasury bonds or like some sort of bonds, right? Like that's considered like the kind of the de facto risk-free rate, and I think that paralleling, that to like crypto finance world, I think that the DSR might serve to be a really good base financial instrument that provides that kind of risk-free rate. And if you have like guys like Compound and Dharma and other third parties that might be offering better rates, they're also offering kind of more risks. For example, with Dharma, you might be subject to like mandatory like lockup of funds of like minimum 90 days. You can't withdraw your stuff, right? Whereas in the Dai savings rate, it's fully flexible. You can withdraw and deposit at will, and you're not like limited in any way. And also, there's also like I guess risk of default, counterparty risk. So I think that having different places where you can earn interest on Dai is overall good for the market. But I think that the Dai savings rate is going to be a really great basic tool for anybody, even dApps, to like offset transaction costs for people to just have a centralized savings account. Yeah, I guess I hope that answers the question a bit.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So like if
Yeah,
it's high enough, the security will make people want to use the DSR instead, so it can still like control a large amount of the market.
yeah, it's also kind of like ease of use, like the DSR. Yeah, basically, like I guess you can consider it from a risk factor, and also from like a ease of use factor. But I think that there's a lot of thought to be had there because that's a really interesting topic. So Christopher asks, are those tools actually making more Dai? That is, are they opening up CDPs? So if you like open up a CDP right now, and I forget what the rate is right now, so let me just check. I think it's like 14.5%. But if you like, let's say you open up a CDP at 14.5%, and Dharma or Compound is offering 16%, that may actually cause people to create Dai to capture that arbitrage. But let's say that the rate is flipped and it's more expensive to create Dai than to lend it out, then I think the opposite occurs. Uh, so there's kind of like granular scenarios to consider there. Uh, but ultimately, I think that the recent Dai contraction is pretty much due to the stability fee kind of outpacing uh, Compound Finance and Dharma. But yeah, I hope that answers the question a bit.
So I guess like sorry, one of my main concerns is like the amount of people who want a savings. The
Mhm.
market for that might be much greater than the amount of people who want to borrow.
Yeah,
So it's just like we haven't really had much of a interaction with that market yet. So the increases in the interest rates, we've mostly been tuning it to affect like CDP holders. But in
right.
the future, that's actually going to have a large effect on savers coming into the market and savers wanting to buy Dai.
Right, precisely. And you might actually see that the Dai savings rate causes the stability fees across the board to drop because of that, right? Uh, because there's more demand. And yeah, I guess that's just the market dynamic. If you have kind of balance there, you'll see the real market rate kind of emerge.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. All right, cool. So I'm gonna really quickly, I'm gonna share my screen and kind of go through the stuff that's been happening this week for the last 15 minutes of the call. But before I do that, well, actually, so the first thing I'm gonna cover is the real life events, and I know Lenka is in the call today, so and she's been doing some stuff in Europe, and I know she's eager to share. So Lenka, come on. And I think you might be muted.
Hi guys, I just had to run away from the room because there is an event happening still, so I was having headphones on. All right.
Are you in
Can you
Norway?
see me? Can you hear me? No,
Yes.
no. I'm pretending to be everywhere, but actually I'm in Copenhagen.
Oh,
I
nice.
just located my tweets from Norway just to pretend I was there. Anyway, I have missed you for a couple last times, and I just wanted to do a quick run through the events that I have didn't manage to share with you. I missed you on the previous calls, so let me just get started. The most important or interesting thing happening in the past was Blockchain Week South Africa, where we held a pre-day event focused on DeFi and financial inclusion in Africa at the local university in Cape Town. This was divided in two parts. First, we had some sort of mingling and ecosystem partners networking. This was a really cool way to blend the projects that were actually flying in for the hackathon happening afterwards and the local projects, as well as the local just people curious about blockchain. So I met some really nice students from the local university learning about Maker and blockchain for the first time. It's been really eye-opening to learn from these. Yeah, besides this little mingling, we had keynotes on DeFi, how Maker fits within DeFi space, financial supply chain, and then we had a really cool panel with different mix of participants on frontier tech in Africa. And then 19th to 21st, we had the first hackathon organized by It Global in African region. I think it was really amazing. Just to give you some numbers and stats, why was it so interesting? It was that it attracted 190 attendees out of 144 hackers. Almost 70% of these were local from South Africa.
Oh, wow.
42% of these hackers were new to Ethereum. 15% of these hackers were beginners. There was amazing number of projects being submitted. I was blown away. It was 33 projects. We have been all over the place and all over the event as Maker team. We did talks, workshops, fireside chats. We even did learning event, which was really close to my heart. And this was organized together with UNICEF, where we took actually a group of kids that are underprivileged from one of the poorest suburbs of Cape Town and actually put them on a bus and entertain them for an entire day, teaching them about crypto, about blockchain, about central banks, inflation, stable coins, and everything, and left them with some valuable lessons and learnings and their own, secured crypto wallet. And the coolest thing is that if these kids decide, to choose this path, they already have the contacts and the source of information needed to get them through it and support it. Sorry?
They were like high school kids?
Okay. Well, I'm calling them kids. Let's call them young adults, late teens, early 20s.
Got it.
So this was really, really heartwarming, and I must give a lot of credit to Christina, who organized it, and it was a pleasure to be part of it. But going back to the participation as a sponsor, we had the API prize. We split it into 4 amazing projects. We had, out of these, 2 were using the local technology in combination with the blockchain tech, and this is exactly what we are looking for. How to make it meaningful, how to involve people who actually know what does work and what doesn't, and how to combine it with the new technology. Then there was another project that won, giving a voice to Africa using AI, some sort of like a transcription service where you actually transcribe the words, but you use AI, and you also use, protect the privacy of the phrases being translated, at the same time create jobs, pay for these mini mini jobs. Imagine anyone in Africa with a cell phone who can transcribe a language to the local sound to the local language can actually earn some Dai. So this was a really cool project. And then there was one more project that basically hacked several different projects, took it apart, put it together, and created something like a streaming device for live performances where the viewers can actually like tip to view and use his Dai. Yeah, I'll share the links and everything, and we will do I will do more recap. I just wanted to give you like a bit of overview how exciting it was actually to be in Africa and to meet the local people and to network with the local projects and to meet the hackers, some of them very new to blockchain, and seeing how excited and how inspired they were. Right after, our Gustav, who was also with me and Sean in Africa, he flew to Croatia to take part in Block Split. It's a 2-day conference. On the first day, we were part of a DeFi panel discussing DAOs and DeFi. That was really exciting. I'm sorry I missed it. And then he opened, on the day 2, he opened the conference with a keynote about Maker. These couple days, yesterday and today in Oslo, Norway, our Nikolai from integrations team has been part of the developer-focused pre-day called Learn and Build, where he gave a workshop on Dai.js and how to integrate Maker and Dai. And on the 30th, today, there was a Oslo Blockchain Day conference where Gustav joined him as well, and both were giving keynotes and are part of a roundtable. I've been tweeting about this with the fake geo. Yes. Yes. So today I was basically in Copenhagen because we had 2 different events happening with the Danish Foreign Ministry focused on fintech and regtech innovation in Africa. That means that, how can we use innovative technologies to help development in Africa? First part of the day was a conference where we had a keynote by Rune about how can actually blockchain technologies and Dai stablecoin or CDPs in particular help support the impact investment in the fragile states such as Zimbabwe. And right now we're finishing off a roundtable with the 2 representatives of the Kenyan Central Bank. So this is pretty exciting. That is why I was missing the first part of that. And I think next couple of weeks will be quite busy on the US side when it comes to events. So I'll make sure to share with you what is coming up. But this is basically a wrap of everything that was happening until now.
Cheers, thank you for the massive update, Lenka. Awesome to hear
No
all
worries.
this cool stuff happening. Yeah, awesome. I know Mariano's in here. There's a couple things going on this week. Mariano, you want to mention what's going on in South America?
South America. Yeah, we'll have next Tuesday.
Yeah.
We'll have next Tuesday the Ethereum Buenos Aires meetup. This bi-weekly meetup. We will be presenting. I will be presenting, in fact, DeFi, but with a little twist. We will be like running through all the applications that we have in the DeFi space. And right now, it's such a hot topic in Argentina. I don't know if you saw the news from Argentina, but we are again in this whirlwind of the price of dollar going up and up. Well, I think it's the best time to start reminding people here how can they put your Dai to work, right? We also had in Mexico through one of our partners the Talent Land event, a very, very big event where we host a happy hour with them. And what else? Well, and we have our Mariano Conti in La Plata blockchain past week giving a talk about, well, Maker system, oracles, what happened with the PEG, a really nice history of how on-chain governance is working. It was really, really cool. And I think that we'll be giving a bit of that talk this next Tuesday. That's it for the moment.
Nice. Thank you for the quick and sweet update. In the U.S., we have only one event coming up this week from what I could tell. It's the MIT Technology Review Business of Blockchain Primer. That is a very complex name, but it's going on in Boston, Massachusetts, and we have our head of BD, Greg, there doing a talk. So that's it for events. I'm gonna briefly go through for the next 5-6 minutes what's been going on in the space. So we had a stability fee increase this week on the 28th. So a couple days ago, it went from 14.5 to 16.5%. And then on Monday, yesterday, a governance poll was put out to see if maker holders will be signaling further increases. And currently, just to give a brief update on the Dai peg, we saw that the peg improved this week, but it's still trading at around 98 cents. But as actually Matthew Rabinowitz pointed out, there's pretty thin volume, at least on the Coinbase Pro book. So if somebody was to put in a buy order for like 150,000 Dai, Dai would be trading at approximately 99 cents to $1. So I believe that the supply contraction and the sort of time that's passed since these increases have started has really begun to kind of reflect in the market. But again, it's still early, and and we will see what is going to happen in the next coming weeks. Another thing that happened, there was another update to the road to multi-collateral Dai, the Kovan release V0.2.4. And so check that out if you're a developer playing with multi-collateral Dai. There's 2 more developer guides that our integrations team put out. So if you need an introduction to Seth, you could check out the link that I provided. It's also an awesome MakerDAO under a new section I created last week called Developer Guides. So there's a ton of things there. The second guide is how to use the multi-collateral Dai command line interface to interact with the Kovan deployment of multi-collateral Dai. Other notable things, Rune Christensen did he talks future of blockchain on a YouTube video that he did with what was it, underscore VC. So it's like a brief 15-minute video. Check it out. We had a partnership with ITAM Games. So they adopted the Dai stablecoin in their gaming ecosystem, which is cool. I'm a big fan of that whole side. I can't wait to see more games using cryptocurrencies, specifically Dai. But yeah, so that's about it for all the kind of official partnerships, developer guides, and stuff that's been going on. There's about 1 minute left in the official meeting, but I'm gonna go and just do some highlights from the community. Actually, give me 1 second. Yeah, so here it is. Yeah, so some highlights from the community. I'm gonna see if I could zoom in a bit. So we had a thread for the community feedback, asking for your ideas on improving this call and making it more engaging for you guys. So if you guys have any ideas or want to see anything particular in this call, feel free to comment on the thread. I've been floating ideas and considering ideas, and I really want to make this call a lot more engaging for you guys. So definitely interact there. We've seen MakerDAO variables that are developer friendly. So Joey Krug and Jack from Augur actually went through and did a pull request renaming all of the variables in MakerDAO to like what they actually are. So if you guys aren't familiar with the code base, there's a lot of like 3-letter variables like cat and vat and tax and sin and gem and like all these things, and you have to spend some time studying to really understand how the system works on a code level. So it's hard for new developers to come in and play with the system because there's a learning curve. And so Jack and Joey spent some time and they put together a pull request that pretty much explains each of these variables. So that was pretty cool to see. There was also Brendan from Max Bronstein from Dharma published their thoughts on how they think Dharma helps Dai's peg. Me and Brendan had a bit of a disagreement on Twitter about some of the details of that article, but nevertheless, the article is there. It's good. Check it out. Also, I mean, I guess all of you guys know what's been going on in the community with regard to the purple pill stuff. Zandy's story being leaked, Matt posting his story on our Reddit, and providing a lot of transparency to the community about what's been going on. So yeah, check that out if you are in the community and haven't. Couple of developer creations this week. We saw diecast.info. Yeah, diecast.info come out. I believe it's it's a trading view basically a template for the stability fee and for Dai, as you know how it relates to a dollar. We saw actually I think today or yesterday CDP Saver, which was out on Kovan for the longest time, is actually now live on the mainnet. Yeah, I'm actually not gonna dive too deep into it, but check it out. The thread is on Reddit. Feel free to give feedback. I know that our community devs would love feedback for their new apps, so check it out. We also saw today Metacash gasless Dai wallet was announced. So this is a wallet that you could basically send Dai, and you don't need Ether for transaction fees. And the way it works can be found at this link if you are inclined to read and study a bit and figure out how it actually works. Yeah, so that's about it for the developer creations. And we also had a couple of interesting articles this week. We had one on Dai liquidity on DEXs, how to get liquidity for Dai through decentralized exchanges. And it basically talked about Kyber, Uniswap, how various dApps can integrate them, and how where liquidity ends up, accruing in the system. So there's that. There's the DeFi series. It was an overview of the DeFi ecosystem, all the major protocols involved, MakerDAO included. But it talked about all the other stuff like Dharma and Compound, InstantApp, I believe. There was a Forbes article on why everybody in crypto is talking about DeFi. And Forbes articles are they're user submitted, so it's not too hard to get a Forbes article up. But nevertheless, it was a pretty good write up. So check it out. There was the whole leaked letter business from CoinDesk. There was the darkest days yet. Purple pill tell all details. Also from CoinDesk. This was I think when Zandy's doc got leaked. Check that out. And there was also this kind of a satirical article by CoinJazeera, which made fun of Rune, dubbing him the Mad King, who's trying to burn down MakerDAO, which is not, it's satire. So, but it was hilarious. There was a lot of really great plays on words in there. So check it out. Handful of great threads. There was this one thread, despite all of the kind of community sort of turmoil about what's been going on in MakerDAO universe, there was expression for support for the leadership, which we really appreciate. So thank you guys, the community, for believing in us, the project. And I think that it's safe to say, and it's always been safe to say, that on all sides, everybody is for this project succeeding and moving ahead. And there is just a ton of people with their heads down putting in work. So don't let the news stir you up too badly. Multi-collateral dies on its way, and I think the community heartbeat is still alive and well. There was also a really nice thread on a stability fee recommendation. It included like a discount for wiping Dai at certain moments. I thought it was a pretty novel idea, so check out that thread, comment on it if you guys have any interesting thoughts or insights about that gentleman's idea. And yeah, and besides that, for governance, there are a couple of threads. Matthew Rabinowitz put out his usual weekly narrative on MakerDAO, which is a really great synopsis and summary of what's been going on in governance of MakerDAO and stability fee and all that stuff. So really, really great. If you don't have an hour to watch the Thursday meetings or attend the Thursday meetings, you could read these few paragraphs and you'll get a pretty decent understanding of what's been going on. And also, Michael Dunsworth put out a manifesto of thoughts. Really, really great. Really, really great kind of GitHub repo filled with his thoughts on some stuff. So check that out if you're inclined. If you're a Maker token holder who votes, definitely read it. Yeah, so I want to thank you all for coming to the call today. Let me stop presenting. Yeah, I want to thank you all for coming to the call today. Love hosting these, and I love having you guys. So definitely ping me if you guys have ideas for future calls, if you guys have ideas for guests, if you guys want to see any particular people come on the call. And yeah, thank you guys for coming, and I'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Take care, Mariana.